Okay, here we go. Good afternoon. Welcome to the Landmark Preservation Commission meeting for July 1st, 2025. I'm calling this meeting to order at 1:00 p.m. First, we'll begin with introductions of the commissioners. I'll start. My name is Erica Warzel. I'm a historic preservation consultant and architectural historian, and I was nominated by the community at large. Chris, if you'd like to go. Sorry, should have chosen that side. Thank you, Nick.
My name is Chris McGinnis. I'm a forensic architect, and I was nominated by the mayor's office.
My name is Bree Saman, and I'm a interior designer and project manager, and I was nominated by Denver Planning Board.
My name is Elizabeth Caswell-Dyer. I own Soper Communities. We manage quite a few historic buildings in the downtown and around neighborhoods, and I was nominated by History Colorado.
Hi, I'm Nick Fusianis. I'm an architect, among other things, and I was nominated by the American Institute of Architects.
Hi, I'm Larry Sykes. I'm an architect, and I was nominated by History Colorado.
Hello, my name is Emily Hazen. I'm a preservationist and designer nominated by City Planning.
And I'm Rusty Brown. I'm an architect and was nominated by the AIA.
And I'm Brittany Bryant, Denver Landmark Preservation staff.
Great. Thank you, everyone. So just some audio tips for those of you joining us virtually, which I believe is everyone today. For better sound quality, we strongly encourage you to download Zoom on your mobile device or desktop, laptop, or tablet. You can click on the audio settings to bring up an additional menu to add background noise suppression and test your speaker and microphone to adjust their maximum output volumes. If you're presenting or commenting publicly on a project and it's your turn to speak, you can unmute yourself by clicking on the microphone icon at the bottom of your screen, as well as muting yourself. You can expand the menu next to the microphone to reveal additional options, such as selecting your speaker and microphone devices, testing them, and adjusting their maximum output volumes. If you still have audio challenges, we suggest you switch to phone for audio. The first item on our agenda is a new kind of standard item where we welcome comments, general comments from either commission members or staff. So if anyone has any general comments they'd like to make, commissioners or staff.
Just to remind the commission that we will have 3 meetings this month, as we do have a special meeting on July 29th to review Twin Coop Crossing, a pedestrian bridge, and then our regular second meeting of the month, which is slipping my mind right now what date it is, the 15th.
Yes. All right, thank you. Great. Next, we have 2 meeting records for approval. Those are the May 27th and June 3rd meeting records. I don't think we need to actually have a motion to approve them, but if anyone has, commissioners, if you have any corrections or questions, comments you'd like to make on those. Okay. All right. I think they're ready to be submitted then. And then finally, in this kind of intro section, we have our public comment period. This is where members of the public have up to 2 minutes to either make comments about historic preservation in general in Denver, or on any of the items we have on our design review agenda, or business items or discussion items. These comments, any further comments on these agenda items will not be taken later in the meeting. So we suggest that if you'd like to make a comment on anything on our agenda today or on preservation in general, we ask you to speak now, and you can do that by clicking the hand raise button in Zoom. Or if you're on a phone, you can dial *9 on your keypad to raise your hand. If you're having trouble with these options, you can email landmark@denvergov.org with your name and phone number, and we'll be able to recognize you through your phone number and name and call upon you that way. If we have any comments from the public joining us today, please let us know that you'd like to speak. Right now, it doesn't look like anyone's raised their hands. Of course, we will be hearing from applicants on the design review agenda directly. So since there are no public comments, we will move forward with our consent agenda. Our consent agenda are routine design items for review with a recommendation for commission approval without discussion. Applicants with items on this agenda can coordinate separately with their landmark preservation staff to receive a certificate of appropriateness. We don't have any public comment for consent agenda items. So how we will proceed with this is I will announce each consent agenda item by address, and then commissioners will have a chance to indicate if there are any of these projects they'd like to remove from the consent agenda for a regular design review discussion later on in the meeting. If there are none or we're ready to move on, commission members can also announce any ex parte contacts or if they have a conflict of interest. Then we'll consider a motion and vote on these agenda items. If your project is approved on this consent agenda, you're welcome to leave the meeting, but if you'd like to stay and listen in on the rest, you're welcome to do so. So we have 4 items on our consent agenda today. They are application number 2025-ZLAM-048 for 2141 and 2145 South Adams Street, the Ormley House. Application 2025-COA-258 at 2427 Stout Street in the Curtis Park H District. Number 2025-TAXC-018 for 640 North Steel Street in the East 7th Avenue Steel Street Extension. And finally, application 2025-TAXC-011 at 2145 South Adams Street, also the Ormley House. Commissioners, are there any items on this consent agenda that you have questions about or you would like to remove to the design review? No? All right. Any ex parte contacts or conflicts of interest? All right. Then we can entertain a motion and vote. We have a motion.
I will move to approve the consent agenda as read.
Thank you, Larry. Do we have a second?
So.
Nick, all right. I think that was good enough. I don't have to pass it along.
We forgot to use the microphone, but
Oh, yes.
I moved to approve it as read.
Okay, all right. So Larry has moved to approve and Nick has seconded. All those in favor? Any opposed? Great. So the consent agenda is passed and we're ready to move forward to design review. So we have 4 design review items. I will announce each of these by address as we're ready to discuss them. At that time, commission members can announce any ex parte contacts or conflicts of interest. We'll then hear from staff who will introduce the application and their recommendation for commission motion. At that time, commissioners may question staff. And then we'll hear from the applicant. Any applicants composed of a team, or if it's just one individual altogether, you have up to 10 minutes to make your presentation about your project, after which commissioners may pose any questions to the applicant. Then if we need to have any clarifications from staff, we'll hear from them before we then move into deliberation for a motion and vote. So our first design review item is application 2025-COA-429 at 2141 South Adams Street, or also known as the Ormley House. And we'll be hearing from Brittany.
Let me figure out how to turn my camera on. Our first application for today is for a phase 1 mass form and context review for a new infill structure at 2141 South Adams Street, which is within a property within the Ormley House landmark boundary. Ormley House was also listed as a contributing structure to the University Park Historic District, which is a thematic historic district designated for its association with the University of Denver. So the commission on the consent agenda did just approve a zone lot amendment to allow for a new zone lot that you see outlined in red here on the screen. And then Ormley House, which is a Denver Square structure just to the south of that property. So here is the proposed site plan for the new infill development. The proposed development is placed similarly to Ormley House. It is a little bit forward of Ormley House. However, there's a significant amount of separation between the two properties, and Ormley House does sit up on a slight slope. So this placement on the lot will be negligible and as you are walking down the street. The proposed infill development does have a attached garage, as you can see in this floor plan here, and a detached garage as well, which does have an entry off of the alley that faces north. Detached garages are fairly common within the University Park neighborhood. Looking at the general neighborhood development patterns, I do see some attached garages as well, but the attached garage will not really be visible from the public right-of-way and does not appear to be a garage structure in elevation, so it will have minimal visual impact on the surrounding historic context. But the proposal is for a single-family home that is 2 stories in height with some basement space, as you can see in the floor plan here. So the proposed infill development is pulling from Tudor architecture and not the Denver Square architecture of Ormley House. Again, this is a 2-story structure. When talking about this infill development with the applicant, we did ask them to look at something more compatible with the Denver Square architecture of Ormley House. And they did do that. However, the owners of Ormley House really objected to it being more similar to Ormley House, really wanted it to be differentiated and compatible with the surrounding historic context. So we went back to the drawing board and went back to this Tudor form, and staff are supportive of this Tudor form as the 2-story massing is compatible with Ormley House. This structure actually is not as tall as Ormley, so it is subordinate in height to Ormley House. This is 34 feet tall and 2¼ inch in height. Additionally, again, because Ormley does sit up on a slight hill, it will be subordinate in height to Ormley House, but Ormley House is taller than this proposed structure. Additionally, ways that the applicant did make this structure compatible with Ormley House is they did reconsider the dormer forms. Initially, they were looking at a shed roof dormer for the front facade. They did revise that into a gable roof dormer to be more compatible with the nested gable form that you see on the front of this structure to match Ormley House's dormers form, which is compatible with the same roof form there. And then finally, they do have that projecting front porch on the south side of the massing to pick up some of the context clues from Ormley. But in terms of compatibility with the neighborhood, there are Tudors throughout this neighborhood. In the designated University Park Historic District, there are only 2 Tudors designated, but minimal traditional Tudors are found throughout the neighborhood that were built through the 1940s up until the 1955. So staff are supportive of this form. Here you can see the front elevation of the primary structure and that detached garage, which is tucked a little bit behind the primary structure, but a portion of it does poke out a little bit there. Can't see my mouse, but you can see just a little bit of that corner there of that detached garage. So this is the north elevation. There is a large shed dormer on this side. It does not come all the way to the front facade, but it does provide some additional headspace to that second floor, as it is a steeply pitched roof to be compatible with the Tudor forms that you find in the neighborhood. And here you can see that attached garage that is 1 story in height and located in the front 65 of the zone lot. But it again has minimal visual impact on the public right of way, which for us is the primary street, not the alley. And then openings on towards the front of the primary structure to just break up that massing. This is the south elevation that looks towards Ormley House. Similar to Ormley House, this has more openings on the south elevation and does have more architectural kind of higher level of detailing, similar to Ormley House, which again takes advantage of the large yard on the south. So here we do have a chimney, openings towards the front that do transition towards the rear that are more vertically oriented than horizontal, but just 2 horizontal openings there at the top towards the back of the house. And then here is the rear form, very similar to the front facade with that nested gable form coming towards the back of the primary structure. Again, in terms of how this relates to Ormley House, it is very simple in its ornamentation. While Ormley is a Denver square, it is a very ornate Denver square and has shifts in massing, as you can see in the image provided by the applicant on the screen. Again, Ormley is more service oriented on the north side and then more public facing on the south side to take advantage of that large lot and that wraparound porch on the south side. So you can see that replicated in the proposed massing for the new infill structure as well. While porches are not common on Tudor architecture here in Denver, we did feel that it helped establish a connection to Ormley House by incorporating that porch form. Again, you can see those dormers have, while not the same as Ormley does have dormers, and the dormer does match the primary roof form, which the applicant is doing here as well. So here are just some isometrics of the proposed infill construction from the front facade, and then kind of looking from the south facade as well, and then the rear elevation looking at the north elevation as well. So staff does find this infill construction compatible with the surrounding historic context. The only thing that we are asking for is that the porch and roof columns not overlap with the nested gable form to maintain architectural integrity. And I'll just go back to those isometrics. So you can see here that the far north column and roof form does overlap with that projecting nested gable, which we're just asking that to move off of that nested gable. And the applicant does have some images to show the commission to address that condition. But we do feel that the proposed massing is compatible with Ormley House as it is subordinate, and compatible also with the University Park Historic District, which is a variety of architectural styles that again is a thematic district related to the development of the University of Denver.
All right, thank you, Brittany. Before we hear from the applicant, commissioners, do you have any questions for staff? Okay, I think we're ready to hear from the applicant. All right, do we have them all joined? Almost.
Can you guys hear me okay?
We can.
Okay.
Are we ready? Do we
I think
have?
we're ready.
Okay, great. If you would begin with your name, and then you're welcome to present
Great.
We have the timer here for you.
Awesome. My name is Taryn Titus with Robinson Architecture and Design. We are presenting the new construction at Adams, as Brittany just nicely went through. So I just wanted to point out a couple additional things in our design. So as you can see here, the Ormley House boundaries was lots 27 through 35 there. And so we're looking at infilling that lot 34 and 35 just north of that driveway. So there's actually significant openness between the two structures. So next page. And as Brittany mentioned before, it's just Ormley is a traditional Denver square, but it's kind of got some deviation from that style with the wraparound porch and larger massing offset bays, and then additionally with Doric columns and corner coins. So it's kind of a couple different styles and detailing. So we kept that in mind. Next page. So there's just the proposed vacant lot there where I outlined lot 34 and 35. So that gives us the 55 or 50-foot wide lot. And next here, Brittany did a pretty good job with the noting the placement here. I just wanted to point out that we did do a deeper porch just to make sure it was usable, because we are proposing some wider columns at the front of that porch. So it just sticks out a little bit more. And then also at the rear, we were mindful of the openness of the rear of the property from Ormley, so we kept that attached garage to the north side there. Next page. And this is just a closer look at the site plan. I just wanted to point out the central, that X. Oh.
Sorry, my computer has been struggling.
Okay. The X at the primary facade there on the east side, that's that primary entrance. And we wanted to keep that central, which is more in line with the Denver Square architecture. Next page. Basement plan, just was going to point out 8-inch foundation walls and then also 8-inch concrete window wells. So those will be slightly visible on the outside. Next page, you could just see that center entry door with the central hall. And then additionally, those thicker porch columns at the front facade there, and then the rear yard, a little closer look at some of the hardscape and landscape proportions. Next page. Second floor, similar layout with the central 2-story volume in that front stair area, and then flanking bedrooms on the sides. Next page. And then the roof plan, you could see that north gable volume with the shed dormer on the north side, and then the hipped roof volume on the south. The garages have just a lower slope hip roof similar to Ormley's carriage house. Next page. So here, front elevation, that east side, I was just gonna point out, we did do an 11-foot first floor height and then a 9-foot second floor height, and then the steeper roof pitch for the Tudor style home. So we're raising the structure quite a bit just to be more in line with Ormley's overall height, but we will be seeking a bulk plane relief since we're encroaching into that bulk plane. So overall, we kept the materials primarily brick, and then secondary vertical just on that north side, and the garage above that wainscoting, so that the secondary material is not as visible. Let's see, next page. And as Brittany mentioned, that south elevation and west, because it's such an open lot between the two properties, those are going to be most visible from the alley side and street. So we kept it primarily brick. And then you just kind of see the siding on the garages there, so not as visible. Next page. So the side-by-side comparison, I just wanted to point out some of the key features that we thought fit with the Tudor style, but also related back to Ormley, which are the masonry headers and sills. The dormer roof pitches matching the primary roof pitch, which Brittany mentioned. The swooping roof eaves that we've incorporated into our design as well. The dentil fascia, although we did do a bigger proportion, and the covered front porch and wide front facade windows, which isn't traditional of the Tudor, but we felt tied in well to relate back to Ormley. Next page. And these are just some examples of the Tudor styles throughout the Denver historic neighborhoods. We did, of course, the steep roof again, 2 simple masses with all brick facade, decorative rafter tails at the porch, then the in-wall dormers with trim above those second-story windows. And then we created kind of more of an arched entry with those columns kind of flanking that front entry onto the porch. Next page. And again, just those perspective views. Next page. And then you can kind of really see how open. So that first lower right image is from the alley side. So that west and south side is quite visible. Next page. And here we just wanted to address the condition the staff recommended about the porch. We would prefer to keep the column in its current location. That allows us to keep that door central and the central hall where it is. And to address the, to give some relief to that gable massing, we actually decided maybe we could slope that right side of the roof, which is more in line with Ormley since their roof slopes on all sides. So we're hoping that that kind of gives a good kind of an in-between to both suggestions. And Connor, if you have anything to add, feel free. But that concludes my thoughts.
Thank you,
All
Taryn.
right. Oh, yeah. Please go ahead. If you'll begin with your name, please.
Yes, I'm Connor Robinson from Robinson Architecture and Design. The only comment about moving that column is that it would, if we moved it over, we feel like where the current door placement is, you'd be walking out, staring straight at a column, and we're really trying to avoid that. So, but yeah, other than that, I think good job, Taryn.
Okay. Thank you. Commissioners, do you have any questions for the applicants? No. All right, I guess there are no questions. Thank you for your presentation. Staff, do you have any clarifications or final thoughts?
Yeah, I didn't include the bulk plan recommendation in this phase 1, but we can definitely look at that in the phase 2. I am supportive of that. I just didn't include it in the motion at this time.
Okay. All right, thank you. Great, I think we're ready to move into deliberation. What are everyone's thoughts?
Since I've got the mic, I'll start. I think to me, yeah, it's pretty well defended here, and yeah, I think it's an interesting story about it. You know, the owners of the Ormley House not wanting it to be similar. I think that's actually a smart move. And yeah, I feel comfortable with the solution that they've proposed for the porch roof. I do think it would be a bit odd to have that post moved in front of the door, and I think it might be odd internally for the door to be shifted. So I think that seems like a reasonable in between, but I'm curious what other commissioners think.
Yeah, Larry, I was thinking the similar thoughts to the column with the site being, or with the house rather, fitting quite tightly onto that site. And it really seems like they're being efficient with how they're using the space allotted and all the requirements and guidelines. I would agree that that was what stood out to me with the column placement. While I understand the comment of not wanting those two to intersect, the column has implications on the exterior of the house of how you approach it and enter that door, but also on the interior. It seems like that would cause quite a shift for the correlation to the main staircase, as well as just the entry point into some of the rooms of that house. And I did also want to note that with Brittany's kind of information of the discussions that have been had, it is clear that you guys have really done your due diligence in proposing the design of this house. And it's very evident that you've taken into consideration a lot of compatible elements and characteristics of the neighborhood to get to this point.
Thank you. Any other, Chris?
Yeah, the proposed solution for the porch makes sense to me. I mean, I could also make a friendly comment about, we have double columns on the front porch, and, you know, a single column might have been another solution to maybe minimize that overhang into the other gable. So I don't know if that current proposed solution works really, but that's another consideration. But overall, I think the form and mass is quite nice.
Any other thoughts? Larry, Chris is ready to chuck that at you.
I guess just a question about our the motion, yeah, is it would be different than the condition would be different, because I think we're okay with the column overlapping. It's more the roof form kind of just truncating there versus what they proposed.
I think you could take out the column section, or you could just change it altogether to be per the proposed solution presented during testimony, whoever makes the motion.
Okay,
Okay,
that seems good.
okay. It sounds like we're ready for a motion. Would you like to make it, Larry, since you
I'll
have
give
one?
it a go here. I move to approve with conditions application number 2025-COA-429 for phase 1 mass form and context review for the infill development at 2141 South Adams Street as per intent statements 4A, 4B, 4C, and design guidelines 4.1 through 4.6, 4.8, 4.15, 4.16, and 4.18. Character defining features for Ormley House and the University Park Historic District. Presented testimony, submitted documentation, and information provided in the staff report with the following condition: that the porch roof and columns be modified per the presented alternative form.
Right, thank you, Larry. Do we have a second? Bree seconds. I think that's okay for me to just say it. All right, those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. And I guess I'll just note too that, you know, we didn't make it clear, but this is just phase 1. So we will be seeing this again for the design details. And of course, we'll have another chance to look at that solution for the porch at that time. All right, great. We are ready to move on to our next application, which is, I'll wait for staff to shift here. Okay, this is for application number 2025-LM Demo-153 at 321 North Delaware Street in the Baker neighborhood. And we have Jesse with us to present.
All right. So this is 321 North Delaware Street. It's located in the Baker Neighborhood Historic District. The building was constructed in the 1890s and has had heavy alterations, and I would put those roughly at 1955 and 1990. The applicants are requesting a determination of non-contributing status and approval of the total demolition of the structure. Landmark staff are recommending conditional approval of that application, and I'll spend the next several slides going over our findings. One more point that I would like to make, that this is a neglected and derelict buildings property. So that review will also have to take place as part of this. So the Baker Neighborhood Historic District was designated on November 17th, 2000. The designation application includes a list of contributing and non-contributing buildings. The house at 321 Delaware Street is identified in the designation as a non-contributing structure. And while the ordinance doesn't include a list of contributing structures, it does include a list of, or it does include a period of significance. And that period of significance is 1873 to 1937. So we're kind of in this weird limbo here where the ordinance, the house falls within the period of significance outlined in the ordinance, but the designation does call this out as a non-contributing structure. So Baker Neighborhood Historic District, it was designated as significant under the following criteria, and I won't read them all out. It's history and architecture. And then I would move on to section 3011 of the Landmark Preservation Ordinance, and it states the following. In determining whether a structure or feature is contributing or non-contributing to the structure or district for preservation, the commission shall determine whether the structure or feature retains integrity and evaluate the following criteria. And that is whether the structure or feature is listed as a contributing or non-contributing building in the designating ordinance, whether the structure or feature was constructed within the period of significance for the structure or district for preservation, or whether the structure or feature contributes to the significance for which the structure or district for preservation was designated. So 321 North Delaware Street is a one-story Queen Anne style structure. It's a frame structure and it has been significantly altered on the outside of the building and outside of the historic district's period of significance. And those alterations occurred prior to district designation. I would point that out as well. Modifications include addition of faux stone paneling to the front of the house, and we put that around 1955 based on permit records, and alteration to windows and doors are circa 1990s. Staff provided a review of the structure against the 7 aspects of integrity outlined in section 30-211 of the Landmark Ordinance. And I have an image up of our staff comments or our review of those aspects of integrity on the left-hand side of the screen. Landmark staff feel that the structure lacks integrity in design, workmanship, feeling, and association, and that the structure does not contribute to the history and architecture of the district as established in the designation. Landmark staff believe that the structure is non-contributing, citing the following basis. The structure was constructed within the period of significance for the Baker Neighborhood Historic District. However, major alterations to the building's design, materials, workmanship, feeling, and association have compromised its integrity. Furthermore, the alterations were completed prior to the district's designation, and the designation identifies 321 Delaware as a non-contributing building within the district boundaries, and we're citing 3011 and of the DRMC and guideline 2.58. And then here is our recommended motion. We are recommending conditional approval. Of course, our ordinance does state that if a property is approved for demolition, it can be a conditional approval, the condition being that a replacement plan be put in place or be approved prior to demolition.
All right, thank you, Jesse. Commissioners, do you have any questions for staff? Doesn't look like it. All right, do we have the applicant with us? All right, we'll move you over to talk. And once you are with us, if you would please begin with your name, and you have up to 10 minutes.
Yeah, it does have a presentation.
So we have a presentation prepared by the applicant that is being pulled up. And then she'll indicate next slide for you to move. Okay. All right, you're welcome to begin.
Okay. Thank you, Jessica, for that presentation on our behalf. I'm Amy Ripkema, hired by the homeowner Anthony Villegas to help us through this landmark preservation process. And with my time today, I just want to reiterate that this home has been designated as a non-contributing building within the Baker Historic District. Let's move something. And to further support this point, I will compare our home to the neighboring homes, highlighting the key differences in architectural style, exterior material, historic integrity as it relates to the character defining features outlined in the landmark for the Baker Historic District. Our aim is to clearly demonstrate that this home does not embody the historical or architectural qualities that define and contribute to the district's overall significance. You can go to the next slide. So to illustrate this, I'll just go over some of the character defining features for the mass and form. One, exterior cladding is typically brick. Roof forms are frequently include forward facing gables, combined gable and hipped roofs, or flat roofs with decorative parapets. Windows are generally the tall, narrow, double hung windows, sometimes arched and typically have stone lintels and headers. You can go to the next page. And porches are a distinct defining character or defining element in the district, as well as ornamentation. Typically, you see the fish scales on the gables, or other ornamental details that reflect the architectural richness of the period. Go ahead to the next slide. So 319 Delaware Street is the property to the left of the home. You can see that it has the flat roof with the decorative parapet, the entry porch with decorative wooden spindles, the double hung windows with the stone lintels and headers, and it's of brick construction. The next home, next page. The home to the right of us, 327 Delaware Street, it has the forward facing gable with a decorative fascia board, that window in the upper gable, which is also a distinct characteristic of this historic district, the stone lintels, and brick construction. Go ahead to the next home. 2 doors down, this is 333 Delaware Street, although it's a new build. And even though it's a new build, it still has the double gable characteristics, the entry porch feature, brick construction, and although not fish scales, we have the shake shingles up in the gable. Go ahead to the next sheet. This is 335 Delaware Street, 3 doors down from us. You can see the ornamentation in the gable, the detailing in the fascia as well. We have the stone headers, stone lintels, it looks like. Not a brick construction, but you can see the ornamentation is high on this house. And also the gable and hipped roof combination on the roof feature. I'm gonna go to the next page. This is 316, which is across the street from the property. It has the low roof with the decorative fascia, the tall, narrow windows, arched windows, and stone lintels. It has the entry porch with the decorative wooden spindles. Next sheet, this page. And this is not 316, but 324 Delaware Street. Again, has a lot of the defining characteristics of the district, has the fish scale ornamentation on the gable, the high window in the gable, the arched windows, tall and narrow. We have the stone lintels and headers, and a brick construction again. So if you go to the next sheet, so when compared to the home that's under review, it's clear that this property lacks the defining characteristics of the Baker Historic District. It does not reflect the architectural style, materials, or detailing that give the neighborhood its historic identity. There's no gable detailing. The windows are not tall and narrow. It's not of brick construction. There's no ornamentation. So this clear distinction reinforces why this home has been designated as a non-contributing building and supports treating it as such, allowing us to move forward with demolition. And that's all I have for the presentation, Jessica. Thank
All
you.
right, thank you very much.
Yeah.
But commissioners, do you have any questions for the applicant? No questions. It's all very clear. Thank you.
Yeah.
Any further comments or clarifications from staff? No. All right, we're ready to move into deliberation. Commissioners, what are your thoughts?
I think that the case is pretty clear that the character defining features have been removed previously.
Thank you, Emily. And I'll just add too, it seems to me that the roof itself is probably the slope of it has changed as well. It doesn't quite seem to be like as steep as its other Queen Anne or Victorian, late Victorian housing. So yeah, I agree that it lacks integrity, has clearly been labeled as non-contributing, and it's therefore open for demolition. Any other thoughts? Would someone like to make a motion?
I'm having issues with the PowerPoint.
Okay.
You could just reference.
Okay. I move to approve with conditions application 2025 LM Demo 153 for the total demolition of 321 North Delaware Street as per 30-11 of DRMC Design Guideline 2.58, character defining features for the Baker Neighborhood Historic District, presented testimony, submitted documentation, and information provided in the staff report, with the condition that the Landmark Preservation Commission review and approve a replacement structure prior to demolition.
Thank you, Emily. Do I have a second? Thank you, Elizabeth. All those in favor? Any opposed? All right, the motion carries and you have been conditionally approved. We are ready for the third item on our agenda for design review. We're pulling it up. All right, you did it.
Yes. Let me get into the right one. Okay. Nope, not that one. Okay.
All right, here we are. This is application number 2025-COA-437 for 310 to 312 South Cherokee Street in the also in the Baker neighborhood for infill construction phase 1. And we'll hear from Brittany.
So our next application is for a new duplex infill at the corner of West Fifth Avenue and Cherokee Street. Here you can see the proposed property. It's the very wooded property. The commission has previously approved a zone lot amendment to split the lot from the existing structure at 314 West Fifth Avenue to create a new zone lot for this new development. The historic structure at 314 West Fifth Avenue was actually a schoolhouse associated with a church structure that was located at the corner Fifth and Cherokee. Unfortunately, that church structure was demolished by 1937. So the schoolhouse structure is all that remains of that property. Moving on, here is the proposed duplex development. Again, this is a duplex structure. It will be a duplex at the front and then a duplex at the rear, so kind of a front back duplex structure. The zone lot that was approved by the commission is what we call a flag lot, and it will have a garage at the rear of the structure that you can see in this image here. Because this is a corner property, it really does have a lot of frontage along Cherokee Street, but we are considering West Fifth Avenue, the front yard. So I would like to note that this project will need an administrative adjustment for the placement on the site. So per zoning, zoning requires a 20-foot front yard setback. The existing schoolhouse structure to the north is only set back 11 feet from the front property line. So we are requesting that this duplex be placed similarly along West Fifth Avenue. So that significantly violates that required 20-foot front yard setback along West Fifth Avenue. It also violates the setback along Cherokee Street. So we are requesting an administrative adjustment for that as well. At the time of writing my staff report, I wasn't aware of the setback violation along Cherokee Street. I became aware of that last week when zoning administration provided more in-depth comments to the applicant. This will also create a zoning violation for the existing historic schoolhouse as well. But again, I was not aware of that setback violation until last week. So we will review that administrative adjustment for the existing schoolhouse on the July 15th meeting, and we will be recommending approval as that, as well as that is an existing historic condition. So in terms of this duplex development, here you can just see the floor plans. Again, one unit towards West Fifth Avenue and then one unit oriented to Cherokee Street. It will have a basement level. It is 2.5 stories with that third kind of or half story being set back from both Cherokee and Fifth Avenue, pretty typical of new duplex development that we see in the Baker neighborhood, where it's primarily 2 stories, but has a half story or third story at the roof to allow for rooftop access and additional living spaces there. The proposed development is a flat roof development. Here we are looking at the West Fifth Avenue and rear elevation. So the front facade has been designed to have a full width porch, which is pretty typical of development within the Baker neighborhood. It is more modern in terms of its window articulation, but they're still taller vertically than they are wide horizontally, and it will have a cornice on this structure that does wrap around onto West Fifth Avenue and the rear facade, and brick will be turning the corner on the rear facade as well when we transition into materials, but we will look at that in the phase 2 design detail review. Here are the side elevations. So the elevation on the bottom of the screen is the elevation that does front onto West Fifth Avenue, which again has a lot of visibility from the public right of way. The articulation of the massing does help kind of differentiate the 2 units. So you have the brick turning the corner from West Fifth Avenue for that first unit. And then you have kind of a seam that is still part of that first unit that will have a transition in material. It also steps back a little bit in massing. And then you have that second unit that again is clad in brick that will turn the corner onto the alley elevation as well. So we do feel that this massing has been designed to break up the extent of it, as it is quite long along West Fifth Avenue, but remain compatible with the development patterns within the Baker neighborhood. Here is the garage structure. It's just a simple 1-story garage that has double doors to allow for those garages for the structure. In terms of how it relates to the Baker neighborhood, the district boundary does end at this location. It kind of across the street is not within the boundary to the north, but everything to the west. So the existing schoolhouse and that home that you see indicated on the top screen is within the district boundary. So this proposed structure is a bit taller than the existing schoolhouse, but it is typical of the Baker neighborhood to have one-story structures and two-story structures adjacent to one another, which was demonstrated really well by the applicant in the previous presentation, showing just the variety of architecture within the Baker neighborhood. It is a typical width along West Fifth Avenue, and then again, the applicant has done a pretty good job of breaking up that massing along Cherokee Street, as it is pretty extensive. But the development pattern in Baker is a little bit unique, as structures front onto both north-south and east-west streets throughout the neighborhood. So it's really hard to say like definitively like all structures are on north-south streets, all structures are on east-west, which we often see in some of our other historic districts. So you often get a variety of widths and form along in the Baker neighborhood. Additionally, while there is not an alley here, the applicant is requesting a new curb cut so you can access that garage. We do feel that the placement is compatible with that development pattern in terms of development with those alleys. Also following that street pattern where you get them on both north-south and east-west streets. And then the home that is located, what would be just across that new proposed curb cut, that is also new infill development that is contextual with the neighborhood and was reviewed recently. So you can just see the variety of architectural styles within this neighborhood. And we do feel that the two-story with the third floor or half floor setback does create that compatible datum line with the development along West Fifth Avenue. So here are just some isometrics of the proposed infill construction. Again, looking at the West Fifth Avenue on the left side of the screen, and then looking at the Cherokee, kind of where that new curb cut will be placed to allow for access to that garage. Again, we are supportive of this curb cut as well, and are recommending approval of both the infill development and the proposed new construction. And I'm actually working on updating my motion to include details on that setback that is required. So I will have a recommended updated motion for you that includes that setback adjustment for this property, but not for the historic property. We'll look at that on the 15th.
All right, thank you, Brittany. Commissioners, do you have any questions for staff at this point? No. All right, I think we're ready to hear from the applicant. Again, once you are promoted to speak to us through Zoom, if you would begin with your name, and you'll have up to 10 minutes collectively, if there's more than one of you, to make your presentation.
Yes, my name is Danny Buscarillo. I am the owner applicant. And I don't have a lot to say other than my architect Owen Beard has worked extensively with Brittany, and we've gone back and forth on a number of suggestions. And I think that we've accommodated those suggestions into the current design. One of the things that is critical to the design is the front setback relief from 20 feet to 11 feet. And wanted to point out, not only is the schoolhouse immediately to the west, that same setback, but there's one other house on the block that actually is slightly closer than that. So it seems to be to maintain a nice line all the way up and down the block on Fifth Avenue. Makes a lot of sense. And yeah, so other than that, I'm looking to cooperate as best I can with whatever landmark suggestions are, which I believe we've pretty much incorporated into this. So that's really all I have.
Okay, commissioners, do you have any questions for the applicant? No. All right, I think we are ready to, Brittany's still working on getting this updated recommendation for motion up, so we'll give her just a second to do that.
But if you have any discussion, you would like to.
True enough, sorry. Yeah, please, commissioners, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think that the context here of Baker is definitely very eclectic, and I think this fits in nicely and brings in density, which I know isn't our purview, but it's something that I think, well, it helps with the compatibility, I guess, in my mind. And yeah, the massing, although a little bit different than the other two buildings on the block, I think it makes sense in the broader context of Baker that has a lot of like flat roof terraces and Italianate style houses.
Yeah. Thanks, Larry. Any other thoughts? Emily?
It seems to successfully meet the guidelines in a way that is also quite functional for their duplex goals.
Great.
I'm almost.
Brittany's almost ready. Yeah. Chris. I think Chris has.
Just for time's sake, right? Does anybody have any issue with that bigger porch in the front? That's, you know, quite a bit larger than most of the other porches in the neighborhood. It kind of expands the entire front of it. With that 11-foot setback, it seems a little ominous, I guess. But that was.
Say they did do a full width porch because I asked them to. They had
Figure.
kind of a partial width porch that looked a little awkward with this development, but that is for me. Please feel free to discuss.
No, I'm glad you mentioned that, but yeah, I was just curious about other people's thoughts.
I will say that, you know, the placement of the windows and doors on the front facade aren't quite symmetrical, which I don't have an issue with, but I think also the full width porch kind of helps counter that lack of symmetry, which is normally what we see in a historic condition. So for me, it works.
I don't want to put Brittany on the spot again when I know she's trying to type something, but your input about the porch I think is good kind of reference for us. So I'm curious, were there any other components that were part of your discussion that we just in review, it would be good for us to know?
Yeah, I mean, the applicant definitely wanted a more contemporary structure. So we talked a lot about the windows. These particularly on West Fifth Avenue, they are different from what the applicant initially proposed. Also the duplex entry fronting onto West Fifth Avenue, the applicant initially had a canopy structure that went over the primary entrance, which is kind of this bay here. I don't know if you can see my mouse, but yeah. And then it went what is south and then wrapped around the back of the structure. So we did recommend that be reduced as well. There was a lot of discussion about this seam here between the two and principally the roof form for that space above. We felt that, you know, it did kind of help divide the two units. I know it's not exactly what the applicant wanted, but it is a little bit different than what they initially proposed. So, you know, there are some things that maybe aren't traditional to historic development, like this is a shed roof here, but we felt like because it was a seam, it helped divided those spaces, reduce that roof form. This lot is difficult because the bulk plane is very tight on it. So that also drove some of the design on there, and this isn't violating the height and bulk plane. We did look at some previous designs that did, but we felt like the applicant did a good job designing within the height and bulk plane and also creating something compatible with the neighborhood context that is maybe a little more contemporary. I know Danny, the owner, would love it to be even more contemporary, but we think this is a good solution here.
That's helpful. Thank you.
And I have the motion.
Great. Okay, so we'll take a look at the updated recommended motion. And once everyone's had a chance to look, if someone would like to make a motion, whether it's this or something else, please speak up.
And then it's just again to capture that front yard setback, because the zoning requires 20 feet and it is 11 feet. And the side yard too, which I think, let me pull up the email specifically from zoning, which I believe they classify as a front yard as well, but let me just show it. Let me just pull it up so I can have it clear for the commission in case you have any concerns about that. But again, I wasn't aware of many of these. I knew about the West Fifth Avenue setback, but I wasn't aware of some of them until last week. So apologies for that last minute change. But as this project has been in for a number of years, just wanted to get that recommendation because it really impacts how the zone lot is moving forward through this process right now, which I know the applicant is very eager to get reviewed and approved.
Yeah.
So they need zoning relief for the long side of the block as it is a side street. So yes, I do have this correct.
Okay, great.
I move to approve application.
Oh, if you would just
Oh.
use the microphone, Emily, thank
Sorry,
you.
Emily.
Just want to, yeah.
All right, I move to approve application 2025 COA 437 for Phase 1 Mass Form and Context Review for the infill development at 310 to 312 West Fifth Avenue as per intent statements 4A, 4B, 4C, design guidelines 4.1 to 4.6, 4.8, 4.10, 4.11, and 4.18, character defining features of the Baker Neighborhood Historic District, presented testimony, submitted documentation, and information provided in the staff report. I move that the Landmark Preservation Commission find that conforming with the zoning standard for front yard setback and side yard setback would have an adverse impact on the historic character of the Baker Neighborhood Historic District for the proposed infill construction per section 12.4.5.2B of the Denver Zoning Code for application 2025 COA-437 at 310 to 312 West Fifth Ave.
Thank you, Emily. Do I have a second?
I will second.
Larry seconds. All those in favor? Any opposed? All right, so the motion is approved. And we'll see you for phase 2. We have one final project for design review. This is application 2025-COA-461 at North Acoma Street in Baker as well. And we will hear from Andrew.
Sorry.
You
should still be able to use the mouse though to toggle.
Okay.
Or sorry, not the mouse, the keyboard.
Okay, I think I'm good now. Okay, hi everyone. So 345 North Acoma Street is a circa 1886 contributing brick residence on an interior lot located in the Baker Neighborhood Historic District. The application involves 2 primary components: demolition of a non-historic rear addition on the primary residence and subsequent construction of a new rear addition and construction of a new tandem house at the rear of the lot. So here we see the existing conditions at 345 North Acoma. The primary residence retains much of its historic character at the front, but has non-historic additions at the rear that are proposed for partial removal. These photos show the current state of both the front and rear elevations. This slide shows the existing site plan highlighting the primary residence with the non-historic rear additions and the overall lot configuration. This context helps us understand current building placement and the large depth of the lot, which is not typically seen. The proposed site plan illustrates the removal of the non-historic rear addition, construction of the new addition to the primary residence, and the placement of the new tandem house at the rear of the lot. The tandem house maintains setbacks and lot coverage patterns compatible with the Baker Historic District and aligns with established patterns of secondary structures. Here's the applicant provided neighborhood context study. The block is characterized by contributing historic structures, many with rear outbuildings. The neighborhood photos illustrate how the proposed tandem house respects the established patterns of massing, height, and placement, fitting within the context of similar historic properties. So scope 1, the first scope involves removing a portion of the non-historic rear addition from the primary residence. The applicant package shows a further historic analysis with Sanborn maps to show the age of the various additions and the progression of that. I did not include that on this PowerPoint. So the existing second floor plan illustrates the non-historic rear space being removed, with the proposed plan showing revised room layout in simpler form. And we're just comparing the existing and proposed roof plan, highlighting the portion proposed for removal along with the table of calculations. So these perspective renderings illustrate how the primary residence will appear after removal of the non-historic addition. The simplified rear massing enhances compatibility with the historic structure and better aligns with the Baker Neighborhood District's character-defining features. The second scope is the new tandem house construction. The design takes inspiration from the primary residence's mixed Queen Anne and Denver Square styles. The slide presents proposed floor plans. The first floor shows a simple rectilinear layout with a small south-facing bump out. And the second floor plan illustrates the room placement within the compact massing. Wait, okay. Here, perspective views. No, sorry. This slide shows the tandem house's north, south, east, and west elevations. These demonstrate how the tandem house is designed with appropriately scaled elements, including a central hipped roof with gable dormers on the north and south ends. I lied, on the east and west end, sorry. Slide. So here perspective views illustrate how the tandem house will appear both within the rear yard and from the street. From the public right-of-way, the tandem house is partially obscured behind the primary residence, minimizing its visual impact on the historic streetscape. There are additional views within the applicant packet. So this is a letter of support from the registered neighborhood organization, BHNA, the Baker Historic Neighborhood Association, dated May 22nd, 2025. So in conclusion, staff is recommending approval of the application for the phase 1 review of mass form and context for the new tandem house, demolition of the non-historic rear addition, and construction of the new rear addition. The proposal meets guidelines 4.1 through 4.8, respects the historic district's character, and is supported by the RNO. If approved today, this project will be coming back to the commission at a later date for the phase 2 design details review. Similar to the other design review project, this project will likely need an administrative adjustment to address the new construction piercing the bolt plane. Landmark is supportive of this. However, this administrative adjustment recommendation will be added on the design or on the phase 2 review.
And ignore that motion up there that has all the extra stuff about the AA, because I threw that in by accident when I was trying to.
I was gonna say, I don't
So my
remember
apologies
putting
for
that
that.
on.
Wondering what happened to it, like, where's this language going? So my bad.
All right.
Oh yeah, so my motion ends at report in the middle.
I'll fix it when we show
Okay.
it later.
Okay. All right, thank you, Andrew. Commissioners, do you have any questions for staff? All right, oh, yeah, Regis.
Could you provide some clarification for the scope 2 of the carriage house? From the existing photos, it was hard to tell what, obviously there are some new architectural elements being proposed that will be additive to the structure, but it also seemed like there was some potential window and opening changes and replacements also happening in the dormers.
Oh, that's a totally new structure. Are you saying carriage house? Like,
Yeah, sorry, maybe I misunderstood it. From the plan, it looked like there was an existing structure, but this is all new.
yeah, the tandem house in the rear is all new. Let me go back and show you
I guess the existing
the
photo.
site. There's just showing like some different site features out back. I don't know if it was like a
Oh, okay.
like concrete edging for gardens that maybe were once there. Is that what you were talking about?
I
And
guess.
there's the image, sorry, this was also my project. There is an image in there that is similar. I don't know if Andrew has it in his slideshow, but the tandem house is taking inspiration from that secondary image. They're not exactly the same because it will have that like dormer that is similar to this Queen Anne structure, but maybe that's what you're
Okay.
seeing and
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I forgot to say that the last 6 or 7 photos of the entire applicant package
Mhm.
are that first version that the applicant submitted showing, I guess, a more simplified without the
Yeah.
dormers.
But I
Oh.
don't know if you're looking at page 31. That's just a get that.
Yeah, I was gonna say sorry, sorry. I'm glad I asked. I think there seemed to be some existing photos of a brick structure that was painted over that had much simpler features, so it wasn't clear to me that that was part of the existing house that's on the site.
Is it,
Are you
like
looking at these ones you're saying?
so,
Okay.
like on page 31,
Yeah.
there's like a
Yes,
comparison.
yes,
That
okay.
is not this
Oh.
property.
That's a neighboring.
Okay,
Yeah, that's
that
part
is
of
the
the
that is
context.
the confusion. Okay. Okay. That makes more sense now. Okay.
The architect pulled inspiration from for this proposed tandem house.
Sorry,
I
that's
see.
what you're-
Okay,
sorry.
that makes a lot more sense. Okay. Clearly the photo stuck out to me. You guys do have a description. I'm glad I got clarification. Thank you.
No worries. I probably could have put that in the PowerPoint, but
That's all right. It is all right.
There was a lot of other buildings that I went past.
Any other questions for staff? All right, we are ready to hear from the applicant. Who I believe is familiar with our process, but just a reminder that once you've been invited to speak, if you would begin with your name, and then you have 10 minutes for your presentation.
Hi,
There.
can everyone?
Hello.
Hi, my name is Jim. My wife, my mother-in-law, and I own this property here. We currently live in Baker. We've been here for about maybe 9 years or so, on the corner of 4th and Cherokee, at 369 Cherokee. For anyone who knows the neighborhood, it's a small terrace home, Victorian era terrace home as well, and it has mural on the side and a little tree lawn micro parklet on it. But we've been there for a while. When I bought the place personally in 2016, it was just me, and since then, I've gotten married, and we've also had 2 children. So we have a 2-year-old and a 3-year-old. The house that we live in is one half of the terrace duplex. My mother-in-law bought the other side of it when we got pregnant. So we currently have a little multi-generational dwelling over here, but it's gotten a little tight having the 4 of us on one side with 800 square feet. So we've been looking around for a while. When we found this property over on Acoma Street, we were extremely excited because we're looking to expand and stay in the neighborhood. We're really active right now. We're part of the crew that organizes potluck dinners and weekly volleyball in Daly Park. We have our kids in the public school here at Fairmont DCIS. And we're looking to take advantage of some of the really, I think, progressive rules that the city laid out in terms of ADUs recently to create an actual dense multi-generational household. And so my mother-in-law is going to be living on the first floor of it. We're going to be in the primary house, and then we're going to be working to landscape that central yard to have shaded canopy trees and grow a lot of our own food. And we're looking to really age in the neighborhood. So the idea is that, you know, once we get older as well, we would move into the tandem house in the back, and we're kind of building it out that way. But we're planning on being here for about 40, 50 years or however much we have left. Yeah, just wanted to introduce myself, say hi. Thank you guys for taking the time. Ozzy is probably going to do a lot of the more technical stuff, but let me know if you have any questions too.
Thank you.
Great. Thanks for the intro, Jim. Yeah, and we've been just so thrilled to get to work on this house and this site. Acoma Street has some of the most, distinguished surviving houses from the history of the neighborhood, and this is one of the really cool ones. Very interesting layers of history in it, where, it kind of appears to have started out as more of a Queen Anne style, with more regularity and more symmetry than most Queen Anne. And then somebody came back and gave it like a high craftsman renovation. It built a lot of craftsman detailing on the interior, added things like the south-facing bump out. And then there's another layer in there of work that was done in the 80s, which is really wild. And Jim has pointed out there's a place in the house where you could fall from the attic to the ground floor without any railings to catch you along the whole way. So lots to be done to make it safe and livable again as well. Andrew mentioned the unusual depth of the site. This block of Acoma is kind of like that along the whole stretch. And it does have the most developed alley in all of Baker. And it's a really cool experience to walk down, because you'll actually find, like homes with flower beds out front along the alley here. And it's a very special thing. And we feel like the proposed tandem house will really complement that and help reinforce that character. So to talk about the proposed addition and renovation, we want to make sure it's clear that the proposed demolition scope is very limited, that we're talking about here. The only area that we're calling to demolish is, when the house was originally built, there was a single-story rear extension at about half the width of the house. And then sometime later, a second story was built on top of that as kind of like a Baker neighborhood weekend special. And the floor in there actually slopes at the same slope as the original roof. And so that upper floor addition is the only part we're actually calling to demolish, along with the back wall of that original portion to allow us to kind of extend that form back and create the new primary bedroom suite and the new kind of prep area and mudroom below. I think the site lays out really well in the way that the house sits on the site for this addition. I believe we have a perspective a little later on that just shows how little visibility there is for the proposed addition from the street. We feel like we're stylistically compatible, so it would be fine if it were visible, but it's actually so well hidden that it's something that really just peeks out from a very specific angle. Yeah, thank you. Perfect. That's the best image. Now moving on to the tandem house proposal. This is a very simple massing. We kind of went back and forth between proposing this as an ADU or a tandem house. And then we learned the surprising and very exciting information from the zoning department based on James's inquiries that an ADU is actually allowed to be attached to a tandem house. So that is essentially what we're proposing here, is the tandem house has a built-in integral ADU. The proportions of the design really are based on the proportions of the primary house's facade. It has the same kind of rectilinear character. And then there's the bay window to the south that is picking up that special addition from the existing primary house. Then there is also the nearby inspiration of the historic carriage house behind 357 Broadway, which is a landmark structure, very special, like the last surviving mansion on Broadway. And yeah, I understand being confused that ours looks a lot like this, but isn't quite this. And you know, I think it is just an illustration of the general compatibility of what we're proposing. Other than that, I know our original package also includes some images that we are interested in requesting an admin adjustment for height and bulk plane encroachments as part of this. And so far as I understand, this is something we'll address in our second submittal, so I won't spend too much time on this now. We do have some illustrations in the package of what the project would look like if we were strictly held to the zoning restrictions. And we think it illustrates really well how a little bit of flexibility here will make a much, much more compatible design because the bulk plane and height restrictions lead to a roof slope that is much steeper than the existing primary house, and then a truncated roof where it has to be chopped off at the top because of the height limit. You know, that is not a very historic form and certainly not a very practical one to build with residential building materials. The admin adjustment will allow us to match the existing slope of the roof to the primary house's original slope. And then you'll see that the design of our dormers is also influenced by this kind of semi-detached form of the existing house's dormers. So those are the key elements of the design. There's lots more I could talk about. It's a large, complex project for being a single family project. Happy to answer any questions or go into further depth on anything. So yeah, thanks so much. I hope you've enjoyed Baker Day at the Landmarks Commission, and hopefully we can close you out well.
All right, thank you. Commissioners, do you have any questions for the applicant? All right, it looks like it's very clear. Thank you. Staff, any further comments to hear? Okay. All right, we're ready to move into deliberation. What are everyone's thoughts?
No, I think it's a good way to wrap up Bigger Day.
I will also say, clearly you guys have done a good job of bringing in architectural components from the existing structure as well as the historic neighborhood, as I was quite fooled, so good job. But it seems that you guys have really taken in consideration a lot of the existing elements of the building that are have historic integrity, and have done a really thorough study of some of those other additions, and really clarifying when they took place. And it also, as you mentioned, from the interior, you have some very unique conditions. But I think overall it seems like a very cohesive design proposal.
Thank you, Bree. Any other thoughts? If not, would someone like to make a motion? That I think we are still working.
No, I just can't find Zoom.
Working to get that recommended motion up on the screen.
Is it the same as what was in the staff report?
I believe
It
so,
is,
yes.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Got it up.
Great, Elizabeth.
Okay. I move to approve application number 2025-COA-461 for the proposed Tandem House Phase 1 mass form and context at 345 North Tacoma Street as per design guidelines 4.1-4.8, character defining features for the Baker Neighborhood Historic District, presented testimony, submitted documentation, and information provided in the staff report.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Do we have a second? Rusty seconds. All those in favor? Any opposed? All right, the motion carries unanimously, and you have been approved for phase 1. We'll see you at phase 2. Thank you. That concludes our design review agenda. We do not have any violations to consider, so we are moving on to our business items. We have one item. These business items are for commission deliberation and voting. So I will announce the item on the agenda. We'll hear from staff to introduce the business item, after which commissioners may question staff, and then staff can provide clarifications if necessary before we move into deliberation and a motion and vote. So our one business item is for application 2025-LM demo 075 at 400 South William Street. And we will hear from Becca.
Thank you. Sorry to take you all out of Baker, but we're not going very far. The item before you is proposed demolition for 400 South William Street. This property came in for demolition on March 13th, 2025. At that time, Landmark staff evaluated the property and found that it had potential to be a Denver landmark. As such, Landmark staff posted public notice on the property on March 28th, 2025. Members of the public submitted a notice of intent to file a designation on April 18th. This extended the posting period to May 27th and triggered required mediation with the owner of the property, Landmark staff, and the applicants of the NOI. This mediation was held on May 6th, and following that meeting, community planning and development staff provided the property owner with many options for rezoning the property. And the property owner also met with a member of the public and a historic preservation redeveloper on site at May 14th to discuss options of how this church might be reused. Following all of these meetings, you saw this property again just a few weeks ago when the owner, NOI applicants, and LPC agreed to extend the NOI process to July 1st. To allow time for additional conversations about the potential reuse of the building. It is now July 1st, and we're once again asking for an extension of this posting period to August 5th for more time to discuss with the city zoning team some zone lot amendments to allow development on the southern 2 parcels of the land while allowing this church to potentially be resold to a preservation-minded buyer. So the recommendation for you all, oh, sorry, I meant to, there you go. There's the process and where we are in the application process. This falls under chapter 30-6, which means that we review all demolition permits within the city and county of Denver. But you are all allowed to extend those time limits in 30-7. You can see that everyone approved. So we are recommending approval of this extension request so that we have a little more time to find a win-win solution for this building.
Thank you, Becca. Any questions for staff?
I brought this up last time with the 60 days. I thought was too short, and can you extend that even more than 60 days?
We can. And do you mean the first 60 days? Or?
Yeah, remember, I think the last time we met in here and you presented this, and I mentioned that the 60 days I thought was too short, and I guess we're kind of back here again. So I'm just wondering if that's, if it can be extended a little bit further, just to.
So it's not really the 60 days though, right? Because it's.
Yeah, the first extension was like 30 some odd, and this,
Okay.
is like 40 some odd.
Okay.
Yeah, we do often try and have longer periods. I think for the property owner, he's looking for some assurance that he can move forward with building the other 2 lots. And so had asked for those shorter time periods. In response to that, we asked that it move to a date certain that lines up with an LPC day so that we don't have to call you all for an emergency LPC meeting like we did in May. So that was our compromise, is trying to find a way that works for everyone. So
Okay. Thank you.
All right. We can deliberate further if you'd like, or someone can make a motion. Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Sorry.
little closer to you.
I move to approve an extension of the 60-day time limit per the DRMC section 30-6 1B 3 and section 30-7 for the proposed issuance of a landmark demolition approval for 400 South Williams to August 5th, 2025, per presented testimony, submitted documentation, and information provided in the staff report.
Thank you, Bree. Do I have a second?
I'll second. Oops.
Give it to Chris this time. Chris seconds. All those in favor? Any opposed? All right, so the motion passes. Thank you. Thank you. I believe that concludes our agenda. So I will now close the meeting. It's 2:36 and we'll hopefully see most, if not all of you, at our next meeting on July 15th. Thank you.
Thank you.